Hi guys, look what I got for €1 last week. Can you see what that is? That's a tin. So this is, I suppose, a variation on tarot in a tin, except there aren't any tarots in here, just oracle decks and more oracle decks and the ocean oracle, of which I am going to pull a card. There it is. And it says, oh yeah, confrontation with your destiny. That's the card right there. I have no idea. It's Astrea. So that's a name. I don't know. I suppose it's been a bit of a day. Yes. My cloth in there as well. I'm not taking this deck or these decks or the whole tin out of the house so far, because it's a bit of a, handful. But I still think it's very pretty, and with these roses, yeah, that just had to come. That had my name on it, inside and out. What am I going to do today? I want to put a bit of I've got a link for people who are interested in that type of thing. I'll put it in the description. I think it's pretty interesting. It has to do with astrology. It has a very short description for, how am I going to say that? Successive generations from an astrological viewpoint, considering the outer planets. So there is Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, right? And so whenever one of those three planets changes sign, you get a different situation. And the person who wrote this, it's an excerpt from a book, but I think it's pretty interesting because it shows the differences in attitudes for people like my parents and my grandparents, and especially the differences between them, right? So to me, that's a great handle on trying to, explain away some of the conflict that has been all over the place in my life, as you well know by now. And I know that there is other people out there who are in the same kind of situation, and who are, trying to make sense of things, who maybe, just like me, have internalized a lot of the conflict and are by now quite fed up with it and quite tired of fighting the same old, concentration camp shit over and over and over again. I just read a book. I just finished reading. Her name was Sarah, by Tatiana de Ronet. It's a French author who's one of whose parents was English. So there's a bit of a mid-Atlantic thing going on there, what we used to call mid-Atlantic, talking about people's accents. When there's this European thing and there's this American thing, and it's about a Holocaust survivor. And I was, bawling my eyes out most of today, because, my grandparents and stuff that I've never known, just like in the book, really. There's a lot there that it's quite therapeutic for me to read that type of thing. And I suppose it's great. I only wonder why it has had to take so long, 60, 70 years. For people, isn't that crazy? And then again, the events and the circumstances were so horrifying that it's quite possible. How is that supposed to ever just disappear or something? Of course, it doesn't just disappear. So the effects are still with us, and we're supposed to, all of us, somehow, deal with this and find a way to the extent that we need this, okay? Some of us need to talk about these things, and maybe for others it's less of an issue. And I suppose if you are an English native speaker out there, you guys, you didn't get the Nazis in your backyard, I think, as far as I know. Doesn't mean that there hasn't been, there's always a possibility that there has been conflict or some type of interaction that has affected either your ancestors or yourself even at this point, but it's not really the same thing. And yeah, so talking about cultures and differences between approaches of culture, I have been also quite interested in looking at horoscopes for nations. That's also a possibility. And because I'm also interested in, I'm always interested in, let's say, what used to be called power, and that nowadays I think we're as a species, we're growing away from the idea of power, the effects, the fact that one person has power over most times a number of other people, and these people are reduced to a lesser status of some sort. Anyway, I've been interested in doing this, in looking at this from a sort of a nation's point of view as well, because I'm also each time rather fascinated and grateful personally that I live in the Netherlands, which is, although we did have the Nazis in our backyard, I think because I lived in France before, not for a very long time, just a couple of years, but I have some, to the extent that I had any personal emotional identification with a culture or a country, it used to be France much more than Holland. And by the way, Holland in my lingo means the Netherlands, because I am a bit of an expat, and or at least I was until quite recently. And to me, Holland is a term of endearment to speak of the Netherlands, and I learned to use it that way from people who are also expats at some point or other. So it's a bit of it's not meant to be derogatory or demeaning to other parts of this country that are historically not designed or pointed at, indicated by the term Holland, such as Brabant and Limburg, and I believe those two are the main ones. Historically, there is this union of 7 provinces that I really don't know all that much about. I think it was somewhere in the 17th century, 16th, 17th century that the 7 provinces got together, and those were in the north and in the west part of this country. So really the river delta, and 1570-ish, thereabouts. There's a date for that, for the Union of Utrecht, as it's called, and I can put it in the description again. And I have made a horoscope for that, and it shows a couple of pretty interesting things. And it's always, I think it's kind of, it's a bit of a game, and it's also kind of cool and kind of interesting to see what type of an expression a country gets. Which part of the country, the republic that we have now, or some older form. I mean, each phase of a culture has a different type of expression, of course. So, you can look at those things, and it's kind of cool to see that there are factors that keep coming back, that kind of determine the progress or the expression of a nation, really. And those nations, even though maybe because I don't really believe in power and priests and all of that, like you know by now, I think that's kind of interesting as a like a conglomerate. It's almost like a crystal of some sort that has grown and expanded over a couple of centuries, and you can sort of look at its characteristics. And I am, like I said, I'm grateful that I live in this country because so far I am really safe here. And that's a thought that has been on the top of my brain in the past few weeks, that it's still quite difficult for me sometimes to realize or to feel safe, which is what happens when you are a trauma survivor. And I suppose I especially shouldn't be too hard on myself, demanding that because that's my nature, I want to, just get out there and paint and do my stuff and do my thing and do my dance, in life, and forget about all the things that have happened. But I've never been able to do that. I've never. That's just one of those, borders between two currents. It's like two currents in a river that meet, and it just doesn't really mingle. And my nature is like that. I just want to go out and have a coffee and just forget about everything. But my life and the way things have been haven't allowed me to do that, and which is good, which is really lucky, because that has allowed me to think about things and to maybe also talk about things. So instead of going on like this forever for another 3/4 of an hour, I will leave it at that for now. I will just put my links in, and I will. I hope maybe tomorrow I'll be getting back to you with a little bit more detail. Thank you for being here, guys. See you soon. Bye bye.